Logan, the PJ Washington series has arrived. After dropping 29 in game 2, he drops 27 in game 3, and the Mavs come up with a big clutch win over OKC to take a 2-1 lead in this series. What did you take away from this Dallas win?
They got more firepower offensively, I think, in Oklahoma City, man. Just carried them across the finish line, at least more reliable offensive creation. But I do want to start with PJ, man. Wow. 29 with 7 3-pointers made in game 2, 27 with 5 3-pointers made in this one. You can't overstate his impact and how important he has been. He is imperative to the Mavericks winning basketball games. They've needed this offensive production desperately, and it's from one of the most unlikely guys that you would. Carson, he's a lifetime 35% three-point shooter. The regular season this year, cumulatively between Charlotte and Dallas, he was 32%. In these playoffs, he has been a 41% shooter. Again, these are the easiest looks that you're going to get in basketball. It's the shortest three on the court. 90% of them are wide open because Luka's creating you great looks, but he's hitting them. You can't ask for much more, man. And
he keeps taking them. That's the PJ Washington thing. That's what I've always said, man. That dude will take 20 shots in a game if you give him 20 good shots, and he's done it in these last 2 games, and that's been massive.
And even when guys are barreling down and closing out hard, dude, it's fearless. He is just ready to put that thing up at all times. And outside of PJ, I was really impressed with the Mavericks' defense and effort, wire to wire, this entire game. Dominated the glass, 48-41 overall. Dallas wins 15-6. They win the battle in offensive rebounds, 16-9 in second chance points. I want to give a ton of credit to Oklahoma City and what they did in the fourth quarter. I think they get 5 offensive boards in the fourth. That was pretty good. Only time Dallas really slipped up, but they dominated most of the game. And they made life really hard on SGA, man, stopping him from getting all the way downhill, just making life hard on him. And the hero here is Kyrie Irving, bro. One of the best number 2s and closers in all of basketball. 8 points in the fourth, doesn't miss a field goal. He's got that sick double team kick to Gafford, man. So insane. To the wherewithal to know that you can get your foot there, split those 2 guys, and get that pass off. Only Kyrie, man. He's got that fall away right elbow J on J-Dub. He's got that insane left hand finish in the lane on Jalen Williams. That was my big takeaway, man, is that when these teams are trading blows and stuff like that, Dallas has another guy that's just a little more reliable. I love the SGA and J-Dub firepower that they have at the top, but Luka and Kyrie is just a little more meaningful. And Kyrie is just one of those guys. There's only a handful of guys, maybe not, that I'd rather have in the fourth quarter. He might be the guy that I would want to help me close out a game, man. That left-handed floater, man, Kyrie is just so special, it feels like, in these tight environments, man, in these close games, and is always ready to fire. He gets them across the finish line, as does Derek Lively, banging some clutch free throws. But the old hack-a-shack from Dagnall, man. But that was one of my big takeaways, is that, I do think Dallas has the little bit more firepower offensively, and that was a key distinction of why I took Dallas in the series, man, is in these tight environments. I trusted Dallas to close out games a little more effectively, and they did in this one.
Kyrie was awesome, and even if it wasn't a monster box score performance, the clutch shot making was out of this world, and I just want to give credit to what an incredible job this Mavs front office has done every step of the way over the last 1.5 years. You think about where this team was at the time when they made the Kyrie trade and where they are right now, and they have just hit home run after home run after home run. And the biggest testament to that is that they are in this position right now, 2 games away from the Western Conference Finals, and Luka is just not right, dude. Clearly, his knee is hurt, and that's bothering him, and that's keeping him from getting downhill as much as we're used to. His shot is also just off. He's not playing anywhere close to what you expect from Luka Doncic, especially in these playoff settings where he's historically gotten even better. And I think now we just have to come to terms, Logan, with the reality that you're probably not going to see that dominant top 3 player Luka, because we are 9 games deep into this playoff run now, and that guy still hasn't emerged, and he's clearly just off. And yet you are up 2-1 on the Oklahoma City Thunder, the 1 seed in the Western Conference. And Kyrie deserves a huge amount of credit for that, because when they made the Kyrie trade, I loved the pure basketball fit with Luka. I thought offensively he was exactly what they needed, right? A versatile second star who could play without the ball, but who was also a lethal on-ball creator who could float the offense really effectively without him. but I was worried that they were too far away as a basketball team. I was worried that if you're giving up DFS and your remaining draft assets when you're already now in like an asset deficit because you let Jalen Brunson walk for nothing, I just thought they were probably too far away as a basketball team. And then I was like, if the personality fit isn't right here, if Kyrie can't stay healthy, if you've traded your last positive assets for the wrong star, you've gone all in on the wrong guy, even though like it was a pretty good value proposition for how great Kyrie is as a player, but still it was assets that they were giving up when they didn't have a lot of assets to just be throwing around. I was worried about the downside there, but they have done an incredible job of building out a very strong roster around those two guys. And Logan, you talk about Kyrie as a number 2, and of course, in the big picture, he is, but he has been their best player in these playoffs. There's just no question about it. And you think about what he does down the stretch. 3 straight tough isolation buckets in the fourth quarter over Aaron Wiggins, Lou Dort, and J-Dub, like 3 awesome perimeter defenders, all dudes who are bigger and longer and more athletic than him. He turns his back to the basket on 2 of those possessions and hits these ridiculous fadeaways over bigger defenders. You mentioned the lefty floater beating intense ball pressure from J-Dub in a packed lane to clinch this game. He's just one of the best shot makers we've ever seen. His versatility, his ability to kill you from anywhere on the floor, to serve a bucket to any defender is just absolutely remarkable. And he has been dominating in the clutch, Logan, in fourth quarters in these playoffs, averaging 8.1 points per game on 68% true shooting. So he has taken over and been their best offensive player, especially when they need it. He's also playing the best defense of his career, though. He's averaging 2.5 stocks per game in these playoffs. Logan just consistently making awesome instinctual plays with his hands. He's dialed in. Opposing players are shooting 37% when he's the primary defender. Nobody is successfully hunting Kyrie Irving right now. And at times, his passivity is frustrating, right? These slow starts in first half of these games where he isn't really asserting himself. But on the flip side of that, the willingness to play a role, right? He's the number 2 here, of course, but the willingness to defer and let Luka do his thing for the majority of these games, and the playmaking that we've seen throughout this series, especially as he's consistently seeing 2 defenders, as that is the entire objective of OKC, force the ball out of Luka and Kyrie's hands, make them beat you with these 4-on-3s, make the corner shooters beat you. He's just playing truly unselfish team basketball. I would still like to see him be more aggressive in the first half just because he is playing better than Luka right now, and he's playing out of his mind. He's playing as well as he ever has, but I also see the value in him willing to defer like that. And this is why you make the Kyrie trade, man. He can be your best player for a series. And this was a specific key that I laid out before this series. Like, OKC has more depth in terms of offensive weapons. As much as I love J-Dub, they don't have a Kyrie Irving. They don't have a guy who is playing like a top 15 dude on the planet. They don't have a guy who could outplay both Luka and SGA, not just in a game, but potentially over the course of a series. And that is what Kyrie does in this game. That's what he does around the stretch. And the Mavs have needed that against the Clippers. They've needed it in this series. And it's just an incredible moment for him at 32 years old to be playing at this level and to be redefining, reshaping his public image, a public image that frankly has taken a lot of damage over the last handful of years. He's not just scoring at this unbelievable level. He's doing everything that he can to drive winning, playmaking, defending as well as we've ever seen. And the guy was just phenomenal. So again, I think like the entire roster that the Mavs have built out from where they were a year and a half ago is incredible. And a lot of those dudes are the heroes in their own ways in this one. But Kyrie really does stand above the rest, and it's incredible what he's been doing.
It is. I think it's a realization that a lot of these older hoopers are kind of having, man. You know, the sun is about to set. I don't have many more years to get in this thing. Kyrie's one of them. Like KD, I think Harden, Kyrie, I think all of them. It's kind of dawning on them like we gotta go win. Like it's not going to last forever. Prime's long gone, and I think also Kyrie realizes the gravity of this team and that they really do have a shot of getting through this and potentially like making a finals run. I really do think Dallas is a finals contender, especially when they have a defensive game like this. Like when we can get this kind of effort from them. And that's the final component I thought about this game, Carson, is we get great Kyrie in the fourth. Mm-hmm. The rim protection that we've consistently gotten from Gafford and Lively has been massive, but also the way this team turns defense into offense, like they are getting out on the break, dude. They are crushing in transition. And like any miss that OKC had, man, layups, threes, they were getting out and getting the rock to PJ, to Lively, to Gafford, and just a ton of big play finishes that are quick hitting buckets. Those are the worst ones in the playoffs, man. Those are the biggest killers. Like when you get an open look on one end and just clang it, and the other team can turn it into a layup or a quick corner three or anything like that on the other end, it's demoralizing. And Dallas did that a lot tonight, where Oklahoma City works the ball, finds a good look, just misses it. They got out on the break. That was the other area I was really impressed with Dallas tonight, man, is locking up defensively, working on the glass, and then immediately turning that into points on the other end. I thought they did a phenomenal job in transition.
Absolutely. And I think that the entire defensive identity is obviously the other key change alongside the addition of Kyrie Irving midway through last season. It's what they've done overhauling this roster, adding athletes, adding size. And again, all of the dudes who they have added over the past year, if it was this past offseason or if it was midseason with trades, like those dudes are the heroes alongside Kyrie in this game. Of course, it's PJ, who is their leading scorer over the last 2 games, which is ridiculous, just standing in that corner and raining and destroying the Thunder for blitzing pick and rolls and overhelping on drives. And also wasn't afraid to attack the lane himself, has a couple runners in this game, scored twice off of post-ups. If he sees Josh Giddey there, he's got a size advantage. He's not afraid to attack that. So that's just massive, massive offensive production. And then you have Derrick Jones Jr., who, of course, they added this offseason. His clutch defense on Shai was massive. Shai was the best player on the floor for most of this game. He was just decelerating masterfully. Even though he wasn't getting all the way downhill, he was getting to his step backs and fadeaways regardless of matchup, and he was just nailing those looks. But he goes 1 of 6 with 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Kyrie soundly outplayed him, but the Mavs did a phenomenal job of helping on him, stepping up to get a body on him early. The low man just consistently being there, making him see a second defender. Bigs selling out to challenge those jumpers, because there got to a point where you're like, okay, we know that he's going to stop and pop here. We know what SGA is going to do. He's not passing out of these looks. He's not actually getting all the way downhill. And so now you have even more length affecting him on those shots. And Derrick Jones Jr. specifically stifled him 3 times in the third quarter, twice as a helper, where he is so dynamic for his size because of his length and because of his vertical athleticism. And he's just been awesome there all playoffs. The guy's blocking like a shot a game. And once as an on-ball defender, just sticks with him on a drive. And again, it's a fantastic vertical contest. So he is the hero defensively in shutting down the stretch, the top 5 guy that SGA has been, who again was really, really successful offensively for most of this game. And Derrick Jones Jr. has been the best point of attack defender throughout this playoff run. He's consistently taken on tough assignments and given dudes fits. And then the last component to me is again something that was built out throughout this past offseason and at the deadline, which is the size advantage with Lively and Gafford, which we knew was going to be a huge factor in this series, them just being bigger and so athletic and stronger in the front court physically. And those guys have been imperfect. The finishing has been rough. The short roll passing has been rough. We've talked about that. But the Mavs had nothing at center last year, dude. It was Dwight Powell and JaVale McGee. So to have this sort of athleticism we've known is game-changing, and you really felt it in this one on the glass. Dallas had a 15-1 advantage on the offensive boards deep into this game, man. They're plus 10 on second chance points. That's the game. That's it. And they didn't win on the glass as decisively through the first 2 games as I thought they would. OKC was really able to compete there, but that changes in this game. And what we have to keep in mind, Logan, is pre-deadline, pre-Gafford and PJ trades, Dallas was right there with OKC as bottom 3 rebounding teams in the league. And now you look at them and you're like, you should be way better there. And they were in this game. So that's a real sustainable advantage to me. The fact that they should control the glass more going forward than they did in those first 2 games. The refs also allowed a more physical game in this one, which should favor the Mavs as the bigger, stronger team. Officiating across these series has been so inconsistent game to game. It's been consistent within games, which to me is the most important thing, because otherwise you're just like, all right, what are we doing here? But it is still weird that you don't know exactly what sort of whistle you're going to get going into any of these games. But overall, this win just said a lot more to me for Dallas than game 2 did, because game 2, although they were like, all right, you can't just ignore our corner shooters. Those guys are going to shoot the lights out. At the same time, you got outlier shooting performances. Dallas isn't going to shoot from beyond the arc like they did in game 2 every night. This was a game where, yeah, PJ was 5 of 12 from 3, but that's not ridiculous. That's not 7 of 11. And overall, they had a very average shooting night, but they were able to dictate the glass. They were able to dictate the physicality of the game more. And that is just a more sustainable formula going forward. And the reality is for Dallas that dominant Luka, who we expected coming into this playoff run, who we expected coming into the series, probably just isn't coming as a matter of health. Now, I think he can make more of his jumpers, like you see it in game 2, where he's just really on. But I just think we have a healthy enough sample now to where we know he's just not going to immediately flip the switch and look healthier and start pressuring the paint like crazy. But I still think Dallas should win this series. And that to me says a ton about the level Kyrie is playing at, the level that you are getting defensively from your supporting cast, and really your size advantage in the front court, which definitely mattered in this one. So this was a big, big win for Dallas.
Yeah, and I think the defensive identity is the biggest part of it. You talk about that final, fourth quarter from SGA, Carson, and I saw a lot of people almost taking victory laps on SGA having a bad fourth quarter, talking about why he's not on the level of Luka, or why they think SGA is overrated or this and that. Where are you Thunder fans talking now? And I think you hit on some big key points. It's just Dallas making life hard on him. If you're going to have an issue with SGA in the clutch and what he did down there, my issue would be him not passing out of those after he created an advantage, kicking out to a guy on the wing who can then either swing it to another guy or take the open look. That was the only issue I had with it, because I thought Dallas just played phenomenal defense. The way they were sending 2 or 3 bodies at him in the lane, the way he was affected by Gafford Gafford only plays a couple minutes. It's mostly Lively. The way he was affected by Lively in the fourth quarter on shots, SGA is one of the most unstoppable scorers in the world. The only issue I had with the shots he took down the stretch, don't say anything to me about him as a scorer. I think he's one of the most consistent on the planet, if not the most consistent. My issue would have just been him not weaponizing, how dominant he had been as a scorer more by, passing the ball.
But to be fair, that's a pretty legit criticism. And he's kind of forcing tough shots, and he's not taking good care of the basketball. He was just bad down the stretch of this game. Dallas absolutely defended him really well, but he needs to be better than that. He's a special enough shot maker. And if there's a way that you're going to try to force SGA to beat you, it's what we saw New Orleans do in game 1, right? Where they start sending these unpredictable doubles at him. He's a good passer, but he's such a great scorer that you want to make him beat you with his decision-making and his playmaking, and he didn't do that in this one.
It's a double-edged sword to me, because I think individually when you look at those possessions, there's 2 or 3 down the stretch where he takes a shot, draws a double, and doesn't kick out, right? It's a contested jumper, it's a contested layup, and there's an open guy that he could have kicked out to. The other side of the sword for me on this is the fact that nobody else on Oklahoma City had more than 16 points tonight. And so I wonder if mentally SGA is also feeling the pressure of the moment on his shoulders, going, damn, man, nobody else can get themselves a look. I don't really trust anybody else in this situation, so I'm just going to take the shots. That I understand a little more. So I don't know.
Shooters, though, man. You got to trust your shooters.
And they would have. The bottom line is that if he does kick out in those scenarios, the Thunder are just generating higher quality, better probability shots that are going to be open if he kicks out. Dallas diverted a ton of defensive attention to you, and I think you made a great point about how he did become a little predictable in the fourth quarter, right? He doesn't get all the way downhill. He loves that mid-range. And Dallas loaded up in game plan for him against that, and it worked. So, but anyway, bottom line, I attribute that way more to great Dallas defense than I do SGA's, incompetence on the offensive end. But I do think he could have been way better. I thought he could have made a lot more better decisions. I thought he could have generated some better shots down the stretch. And he didn't. He's got to wear that tonight. But he was still by far the best player for OKC, and the only reason they were hanging around in this game.
Yeah, he was really, really good, especially in that first half and through 3 quarters, but just not in the fourth. Another interesting dynamic for OKC, Mark Daigneault made some very interesting decisions that I want to unpack in this game. The first one being what you hinted at, the hack-a-Lively strategy. Lively makes 5 of 8 free throws down the stretch, but they are fouling him away from the ball pretty consistently, almost every possession for a stretch once you get under about 6 minutes, until you can no longer do that once you're under 2 minutes. And I thought that put Dallas in an interesting position, because after Lively missed 2 free throws in a row, he made his last 4, but after he missed 2 of 2, Kidd pulled him for 2 possessions, which I just thought was, first of all, a really bad decision, because he didn't put Gafford in. He just went small, and Dallas can't go small. Like, they just don't have the personnel right now. That's where the absence of Maxi Kleba is huge, because he can hang physically. And then you do still have a 5-out offense. You don't have any spacing or free throw shooting liabilities. But currently, they just don't have the personnel to compete in a small ball game. PJ at the 5 isn't going to work. They immediately let up an offensive rebound on the one possession that they are out there with this small ball look. And again, they dominated the offensive glass. They dominated the glass period throughout this game. And also, that's just what OKC does. OKC plays small ball better than anybody else because they're not actually like fully small, right? They still have a 7-foot center on the floor, but they have skill and athletes and shooting everywhere. So I wish that the Mavs had Maxi Kleba to counter that approach. Like, if both Mavs bigs are just missing all their free throws, but they don't. And so to me, it's just like, you have to keep dominating the glass. You have to keep your really high level rim protectors on the floor. You just can't give up that sort of athletic and size advantage that you have. And also, I would just go to Gafford over Lively if you're really worried about free throw shooting specifically, because he's not great either, but he's 67% this regular season. He's 69% in the playoffs. He's better than Lively, who was more hovering in like the 50s range. So Lively made those shots down the stretch to where it didn't end up punishing the Mavs. But the fact that Kidd even went small for a second, I was like, hold on now. Don't do that. Don't do that, because that is just an automatic win for OKC. The other Daigneault decision that stands out is the fact that Josh Giddey still started this basketball game, and he only plays 13 minutes, and he actually played better in this game. It was his best game so far in this series, which is a really, really low bar, but it was. He had a couple drives, beat Gafford once, beat Lively once. He hit a floater from the dunker spot. He hit a top of the key 3 and seems more comfortable right now shooting it from the top of the key than the corners. Like, he was trying to get to those more, it looked like. He hasn't made a 3 from the corner in this series, but I just don't get it. I just don't get why you would still even start the guy. Like, he's just been such a glaring negative. He allows Dallas to play their big in the roamer role. Everybody else, you're getting so much more from athletically, defensively, as shooters, as cutters as well. Like, Aaron Wiggins is so smart, so athletic as a cutter. Like, I know that there are people who are still saying like, oh, Josh Giddey just isn't in the right role. He isn't in the right situation. It's totally a product of the fact that he's being misplaced offensively, which, first of all, I do think it's true that he's not in the best role for him, right? Having him be like an off-ball catch and shoot closeout attacker. Like, no, he's just not good at those things. At the same time, I wonder, what makes you think Josh Giddey is good enough to be entrusted with primary ball handling responsibilities? Like, what makes you think the teams won't just sag off of him and let him shoot pull-up threes and he'll only shoot in the low 30s on them? Not good offense.
Carson, he can pass.
Yeah, he sure can pass. He's a beautiful passer. But you know what you have to do to actually make that passing matter, Logan? Threaten the defense. Get into the teeth of the defense. Like, his floater is way too inconsistent. He's way too limited as an athlete and a finisher around the rim. He's just not good, fellas. Anybody who's still holding on to your Giddey stock, but he is especially not good when he's playing alongside way better on-ball creators. So just accept that. Accept that and put the dudes who are way better in that role on the floor, because you have them, and Daigneault mostly did it. But I just don't understand starting Giddey. I don't. And I don't think you can do it going forward.
Dude, honestly, I think if you put Josh Giddey on his own team, he'd be like the best player, and that team would go to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
I don't understand that take, dude. Like, Oklahoma City is offensive heaven. It is. You couldn't ask for a better offensive basketball situation. I understand what they mean with the role, but I'm just talking about in like situation, like. Nah, bro, I actually think it's pretty beneficial. He doesn't have to do a whole lot. Like, he's got a relatively easy job in this offense where, he isn't entrusted with any of these things.
I think the perspective is just, he is by far most useful.
You're not weaponizing. Yeah, you're not weaponizing the best part of his skill set because the ball isn't in his hands as much.
When you have him stand in a corner and brick open threes, it's like, geez, you could put any level wing and they'd be a better player than Josh Giddey. But I also just think people are like underestimating how rough his scoring game is, period. Like, he's just not good enough as an initiator to be in that role. Like, the dudes who are primary ball handlers, you don't have like pass first dudes running offenses anymore who can't threaten you as a scorer. Primary ball handlers are stars across the league, and Josh Giddey isn't a good enough scorer to be that anywhere.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I don't know. At this point, I don't expect Dagnall to make an adjustment. I kind of expect him to keep him out there, but the options are good, man. One of the options I want to give a shout out to is Isaiah Joe, man, who came on, gave the Thunder a great spark in this one, dude. 3 threes made. Like, you get some decent contributions from the bench. I think the biggest thing for me about Oklahoma City getting back in this series, though, Carson, is Chet Holmgren doing a little more offensively. I've been pretty steadily underwhelmed by him in these playoffs so far. And I want to be clear about something. Chet Holmgren is one of the best defenders on planet Earth. He is one of the best interior defenders like in the league today. It's insane what he is capable of as a rim protector. You know, he's got 4 blocks in this one. I think he had what? Did he have like all 4 of those in the first
3
quarter,
in the first
dude?
quarter.
Yeah.
3 in the first quarter.
Something ridiculous, man. Like, Chet's an all-time rim deterrent, and so him just being out there, he's a positive. Chet is a positive in all phases. The way he fights on the glass, how long he is, his positioning, his timing, his like exterior rim deterrence in the sense that like guys aren't going to attempt shots because, I mean, he's just parked down there. Like, Chet brings a lot of things to the table, but he's got to do more offensively, man. Like, J-Dub's had a decent series. Shai has done what Shai does. We need Chet to get to closer to 20 a night, man, taking more threes, knocking down open looks. Like, you see more. He is this team's 3rd star. And when you're going up against Luka and Kyrie, and Luka's not even 100% right now, like, you just have to match that offensive production. And SGA is giving them enough. To me, it's on J-Dub and Chet just producing a little bit more to keep Oklahoma City in it. And Chet's a guy that I think can actually get more looks. Like, it can actually – J-Dub's going to do what he does. His pull-up jumper is either going to be hidden or it's not. And he's going to produce what he produces. I think Chet actually has avenues to just easier offense and more opportunity in the rest of this series. So he's the guy for Oklahoma City that if they're going to turn the tide on this series, he's the guy I'm looking at to do more offensively and really change the dynamic here. I've been really impressed with him defensively, but I've been really disappointed with him offensively.
Simply put, also, he just has to shoot better from beyond the arc. Like, that has been the biggest thing. I actually thought that he finished well inside in this game, but it's the fact that he's 0 of 2 from deep. As you mentioned, he's not taking them at a high volume, and he's just been off. He's 3 of 13 from deep in this series. So I do think that they need more from him offensively. I do think that his defense was like a clear standout of this game yet again. On the flip side, Derek Lively, shout out, came through on the glass, came through with his free throw shooting down the stretch, but the finishing has just been absolutely abysmal these last 2 games. He's 3 of 14, Logan, in the last 2 games. He doesn't shoot anything other than layups and dunks and short little touch shots inside of 5 feet. He's struggling with catches at times. He's mistiming his jumps on lobs. He misses 2 dunks in this game. He still needs to be better offensively. But the other big factor is Chet Holmgren, who is just incredibly difficult for anybody to finish against. And people are shooting 48% at the rim against him in these playoffs, Logan. 18% below their average. It's absolutely outstanding. And what he has done, taking away the Mavs finishing around the rim, that goes for their guards coming downhill, that goes for their rollers, every single finish being challenged either by him or by a wing as the low man, but especially by Chet. The Mavs are dead last in this series among all teams, talking about everybody in the second round. In terms of restricted area makes, averaging just 12 a game. Next lowest is 15 a game. They're shooting under 51% in the restricted area, which is insane. Next lowest is 60. League average is about 66. So he is dominating this series defensively. Legitimately one of the best defensive rookies ever, averaging 2.9 blocks a game in these playoffs. Just like technically as a rim protector is legitimately perfect. His verticality, his timing, it is utterly exceptional. It is the best in the league today, in my opinion. And also, you got to shout out the wings for their collective rim protection and their length. SGA has 5 blocks in this game. So that has been a consistent strength of this OKC team. They've been phenomenal there all postseason. And that does put more burden on Dallas's shooting, both pull-up shooting and catch and shooting throughout this series. But it's just little things in terms of OKC offensively. Like, they just lose this game on the margins, right? This is a super competitive game. First of all, they just need to shoot a little better from beyond the arc. They're an elite shooting team. They had a very mediocre shooting night, as they did in game 2. They need SGA to outplay Kyrie down the stretch. Like, you're not going to win a game if their best player offensively just soundly outplays yours in the clutch. And they need to be able to compete on the glass. They're not going to win there. They can't get blown out like they did in this game. But this was not a very good game from them, and this was not encouraging to me. And again, this moved the needle for me more than game 2 in Dallas's favor. I picked Dallas to win this series, but this was one where you're just like, OKC, you just need a little bit more. Now, I still do think they have a lot of offensive skill. They have a lot of athletes, but I like Dallas's formula at this point going forward.
Yeah, I mean, tonight and this game and the last 2 games that we got out of the Clippers series really felt like, we saw Dallas do what they can do, like, at their apex. And I think you're right about something. Like, I don't think we're going to get Luka at 100% Luka level the rest of the playoffs, but everybody else is playing well enough where I think that they can survive that. And Luka's playing well enough, and the other guys are pulling their weight and hitting enough shots that they'll be okay. And I've just been really impressed with how much Dallas has been able to disrupt and slow down Oklahoma City's offense and SGA and the advantage they had on the glass. Like, it's marginal. I think these two teams are very evenly matched.
They are.
But those components just barely tip the tide for me in Dallas's favor. The defensive edge, the rebounding edge, and the fact that I got Luka and Kyrie. And Kyrie may be frustrating, man, but I trust him more than anybody else in this series to finish and close games out. And that's what he did tonight.
He absolutely did. And I do want to give some props to Luka, because even though this wasn't a good scoring night for him, he was really good on the glass, and he made a super clutch play defensively, picking that ball off, pick 6, really absolutely crucial in helping close out this game that he made that play. And he's had several just awesome, like, free safety plays throughout this series. That's what he and Kyrie both do. Kyrie's just been, like, really, really good defensively across the board, but it's that ability to see the game, to see the reads that are coming from the offense, and then to make a play with your hands and your instincts. And he did that when it mattered most in this game. So I still view Minnesota and Denver as, like, definitely the 2 best teams in the West. And the fact that you don't have peak Luka, like, makes it tougher to see Dallas pulling off a win in one of those theoretical matchups. But I do think that they're playing really good basketball right now. And again, it's just such a testament to the collective strength of this team that they're doing that without Luka being the Luka that we normally expect.